I know, you've read the title and now you're sad. Don't worry, I'm sad too. Because when something in wrestling starts to get popular, it just lights a fire under everyone's ass. We all want to know where it's going to go and then poof, it's gone, it's dead, it's over. More fool us for caring. So do you want to relive some of these? Of course you do. So hello, I am Saturn from What Culture. Please do hit that subscribe button. And this is 10 gimmicks WWE cancelled for being too successful. Number 10, Fandango. I don't know whether WWE cancelled this one, but man, did they get it wrong in the aftermath. Before we do go on, let's do what we have to do, and we shall do it together in 3, 2, 1. Sorry, I regret it. Point is, after WrestleMania 29, when Fandango incredibly defeated Chris Jericho, the crowd decided his theme music was awesome, so let's sing it all the time. I'm sure it started as a joke, but the flipping song went to the top of some music charts, so it all counts. And no matter where the popularity comes from, there are many ways to capitalize on it. Sadly, WWE thought the best way was to overproduce the hell out of this reaction and turn it into almost a corporate folly, before remembering that Dango was meant to be a heel, so did whatever they could to re-establish that. It was so silly because the joy was right there, but no, we're not allowed to have fun. Go home and be miserable. The ballroom dancer never got back to these levels because you usually only ever get one shot at it. Who knows how nuts this could have gone? You can dismiss it, but we will never know. Number 9, Perry, Saturn, and Moppy. This is always my go-to when people say wrestling needs to be less goofy in 2022, and that we should head back to the good old days of the Attitude Era where things were more serious. Okay, so let us discuss 2001, when Perry Saturn fell in love with a mop. Yep. This happened as punishment after Saturn had been way too stiff with an opponent in the ring, so somebody came up with the idea that he could be in a relationship with a cleaning utensil. I mean, it's so absurd it was always going to work in some fashion. This is exactly what happened when fans started to make noise when Perry and his mop came to the ring. So what do we do? End the whole thing at Unforgiven that year, where Saturn and Raven's feud came to an end. I think this would have been fine too if this was because we had something else for the former WCW man to do. I doubt he enjoyed being shacked up with a mop, but no, instead he did nothing before getting released. This whole thing was bizarre. Number 8, Damian Misdow. Now we're getting into the good stuff because you can't argue this one. Not only did Damian Sandow achieve success once with his intellectual savior gimmick that got fans to cheer him despite the fact he was an asshole, he did it again when he teamed up with The Miz. This was even more impressive because beforehand he had been given the Money in the Bank briefcase and lost it, which never used to happen, so no one was that bothered. More fool us. Why? Because Sandow became Misdow and decided he would be a stunt double. That meant throwing himself to the ground anytime The Miz took a fall. So ridiculous it became the best thing on the show. Damian was oddly good at it. All we had to do was get to WrestleMania 31 and the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and have Misdow throw out his mentor to finally be done with him. And while we did do that, seconds later the Big Show appeared behind him and eliminated him too. Like somebody popping your happy birthday balloon. Damo also lost to The Miz during the feud, and after cutting a promo saying the stilly stuff was gone, started to pretend he was the Macho Man. That one was as bad as it sounded, and honestly, what on earth were we doing? Number 7, the jilted lover, Matt Hardy. I know I say this a lot, but I feel it's important. I would rather that no story or character was born out of the things we're about to talk about, and thankfully there is no beef between any of these folk and everything is good. But back in 2005, Matt Hardy found out his girlfriend Lita was cheating on him with best friend Edge, and things went bad, because of course they did. Hardy made such a public fuss he got released, but after a swell of fan support was back on TV in just a few months with an awesome angle, he was breaking into events and causing havoc. It just worked so well. All we had to do was push him right and remind the crowd how much he had been screwed over, but we didn't. Instead, the Rated R superstar ruined him in the feud, meaning the guy who lost his partner and buddy also got beaten up before he got moved to SmackDown, and we acted like none of this had happened. What? Number 6, Swing King Cesaro. Do you remember when Paul Heyman was the manager of Cesaro? That did not go to plan. It all happened after the Swiss Superman had won the first ever Andre Battle Royal, which seemed like a good sign at the time, even more so when he and expected winner Big Show shook hands. Cesaro was always going to be a better babyface than heel too, and it felt like we all knew that, because just as he was ready to simmer away, WWE decided to pair Cesaro with Heyman and told everyone to stop cheering. They also started to take away all of the moves the audience liked, which left us with one question: if this is what the company wanted, Why did he get the big WrestleMania push? We shall never know the answer, which is why I just want to forget about it. Although I did just remind you, so what an idiot I am. Number 5, the B-plus player, Daniel Bryan. So there are some asterisks to this one, but Daniel Bryan even wrote about it in his book. In 2013, when he was becoming the most popular dude imaginable, WWE tried to stop this dead. Why Batista won the Royal Rumble in 2014, and why the Yes Man wasn't even in the match, we were trying to nip this in the bud. Unfortunately for the powers that be, fans weren't going to back down with this one, and with no other choice, WWE retroactively tried to fit a story around it. In short, Bryan was flagged as a B-plus player, which was the real reason he was never able to make it to the main event, and for a while, they honestly thought this would keep him in the mid-card. Nope. The lies here come because, of course, Daniel overcame all of this to absolutely smash it and win the world title, so it did work out. Just don't let anybody tell you this was in the plans, because it wasn't. Thank goodness we did follow through, though. It's still one of the best moments in recent memory. Before Long Island IZ Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder was so ahead of his time with this that if somebody wanted to do the same today, they couldn't. Taking advantage of YouTube, in 2011, Ryder realized he wasn't getting anything on TV, so why shouldn't he just make his own show? It was a wonderful mismatch of insider jokes and someone being a fan, and surprise, surprise, it did the numbers. Who knew being entertaining would work? It got so much steam, fans at shows started to shout his name, and a "We Want Ryder" chant even happened when The Rock was in the ring. Think of that. There was a clear resistance to this at first before the popularity was acknowledged, and sure, Zack was the US champion for a while. From then, though, my word, the poor guy was treated like he'd slighted the company. Before long, his on-screen relationship with John Cena had resulted in Ryder being cheated on by girlfriend Eve Torres, and after we made sure he lost all the time, we moved on from this as fast as we could. It is still totally crazy, even more so when you see what Matt Cardona is doing today. I swear. Number 3, Rusev Day. Right? I've been dreading this one, but we can get through it together. Alright. But yeah, I love Rusev, and I love Rusev Day so much. On one video years ago, I stuck Rusev Day signs all over my body. I can't justify that, and it is odd, but I just believed in it, and this is how I chose to express myself. You'll be shocked to hear it didn't help. All the way back in 2017, it did feel like we had finally found the breakthrough idea for Rusev, as he teamed with Aiden English and Lana and told us every day was Rusev Day. It is ludicrous to say out loud, which made it even better, and as this was coming off a 10-second loss to Randy Orton at SummerSlam, it got people talking. It was soon passed off as a fleeting thing, but when every single venue was chanting it, buying t-shirts and calendars, it was quite clear that this is the direction to head in. So what do? Burned it to death. Apparently happening after Vince McMahon told the future Miro that fans were only doing this as a joke, the group was broken up, and Rusev was put with Shinsuke Nakamura. To this day, I do not know why. It was such a waste, and I still cry myself to sleep about it. Number 2, Bad News Barrett. In 2013, Wade Barrett was turned into Bad News Barrett, and quite literally went around telling people bad news. You could only do this in wrestling, but because he committed to it, it began to work. Fans wanted to hear what awful thing he was going to break every single week. Instead of this being a light bulb moment for someone backstage, however, Wade was pulled aside and basically told off for getting these reactions, as he was meant to be a bad guy. As the man himself has said, he had to knock it on the head after that because too many people were joining in, but that's the point of wrestling. What kind of message that sends to the rest of the locker room too, I don't know, because it sounds like WWE would rather the crowd was bored by a heel rather than be entertained. To cut the whole gimmick short because of this too, it's no wonder Barrett left when he did. What else could he possibly do after this? Number 1, the Stooges. Didn't see that one coming, did ya? Well, sometimes it's good to have fun with these lists, especially when they've been so upsetting. There are loads you could pick from as well, as it's happened a lot, but it's far funnier to talk about Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe as Vince McMahon's lackeys, because they were awesome together. They looked like idiots constantly and were so willing to do whatever they were asked that fans started to love these two, which is why one day they started to feature less and less. I am not kidding. Briscoe recently talked about this during his podcast, and hearing that broke my heart. The straw that broke the camel's back was when Vinnie Mac saw a bunch of sides in the crowd on Raw, and from the mid-2000s, they became less of a thing. Don't try and make any sense of this either. There is none, just weird decisions by at times a very weird company. Who knows why they do any of it when they're meant to be putting smiles on people's faces. Know any other gimmicks that WWE cancelled or being too successful? Make sure you let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com where you can read yourself some articles. Make sure you follow us on What Culture WWE and at Simon316 on social media. And we have a ton of other videos. You'll like them. Go check it out. My name is Simon for What Culture. Thank you very much for listening to me as always. And remember to shoot for the stars, because up there is where it is shiniest.